I know we could not get in touch with each other because of some network issues at my end. So if these things get resolved, I'll be again getting in touch with you all soon. Okay. So till then, we'll make sure that not even a single part of our routine syllabus is getting missed out by you all. So you will be definitely getting benefited with my video lectures also. Okay. So we started with the topic, cell. Into that also many small elements we studied in the case of prokaryotic cells. In my last session, I remember we discussed about gram-positive bacteria, gram-negative bacteria, and what else was there? Glycocalyx, then the cell envelope, what it is made out of, right? So then what was that? In case of bacterial cell, one is called as slime, one is called as capsule. So many such details we have studied. Again, in case of to add into that prokaryotic cell, as such it is not a very advanced or modified kind of cell. There are but ribosomes, that is needed because they are the site of protein synthesis. Okay. So in case of prokaryotic cells, the size of ribosomes varies somewhere in between 15 to 20 nanometers. Okay. Again, what else to add in that? Yeah, a ribosome is consisting of two subunits. The bigger one is of 50S, while the smaller one is of 30S. Okay, and together these ribosomes, when they are present, they form the 70S subunit. Now students, you may have a question, ma'am, 50 plus 30 equals to 80. So please keep it a little clear. We are not doing any addition of digits here. Two subunits of the ribosome, the protein content, we are not adding it digitally. The 70S is nothing but its sedimentation coefficient. It was found by Sir Swedberg. It is the Swedberg unit. S stands for that. Okay. So 50 plus 30 won't do that. At what rate this content gets sedimented? So based on that 50 and 30 S subunits, when together they get sedimented, they sediment at 30 S Swedberg unit. Okay. 70 S Swedberg unit. Okay. So all prokaryotic cells will have ribosome of 70 S. Okay. Basic function, that the polyribosome, when it attaches in the form of chain with the mRNA, it will carry out the process of protein synthesis. Apart from that, there are some tiny, minute floating bodies termed as inclusion bodies into the prokaryotic cell. Now, these inclusion bodies can be granules in the form of granules, like the phosphate granules and other granules, which remain suspended freely in the cytoplasm. Okay. So, not much kind of other very modified cell machinery is present in prokaryotic cells. Now, to talk about the eukaryotic cells that we are going to speak today, plentiful of detailing part is there. Students, make it a point that for my every single comment or word, hold a pen and pencil and a paper in hand and just note down the important terms, because you are going to come across now various new terms. Okay, it's not that what all you have studied so far in your lower grades. So the content of cell and its composition in case of eukaryotes will remain the same. Now, little in detail in advanced study will be doing. Moreover, students, most of the contents of this eukaryotic cell is asked in your NEET level also as well as in your board exams. Okay, so for in terms of that, you have to remember every single function and structure. Okay, and even composition. So to begin with eukaryotic cells, the very first thing that we are going to study is the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. Okay, because cell wall is present only in plant cell, that also we'll study. But to talk about cell membrane or the plasma membrane, students, we know that cell membrane is what we have studied so far, selectively permeable. That means it is very selective in the selection of the useful content. The incoming and outgoing substuff from the cell material or the cytoplasm is, under the check of the cell membrane. It is really selectively permeable. Earlier when the detailed structure of cell membrane was studied, means what is it composed of? Even the cell membrane is not just a barrier. Okay, no doubt it functions as a barrier, but then the give and take of certain stuffs, and again the composition also of the cell membrane really is important, students. So until 1950, cell membrane was not really studied in detail because the advent of electron microscope was not done. After the electron microscope, got invented, then the cell membrane was studied very nicely, okay, in detail. But till then, scientists were already studying about the human RBCs and their cell membrane. Okay, so the study was still going on, but later on, after 1950 only, we got to know the actual composition, the structure, the detailed view of cell membrane. Okay, so these studies, what they revealed was the cell membrane is composed of lipid bilayer, two layers, composed of two layers of lipids. In short, in simple way, lipids, fatty layers, fat substance, two layers. See, cell membrane is not just a single outline or covering, okay. It is also composed of two layers. These two layers are made up of lipids, okay. Also, now lipids, into that also, one is the polar and the other is non-polar. Now, polar and non-polar, students, you have already studied this term in chemistry, okay. When it comes to polarity, then definitely, there is a charge associated with that. Non-polar, negligible, neutral charge, okay. So, polar ends are the part of that lipid layer wherein more amount of positively or negatively charged particles are present, whereas non-polar, neutral ends, okay. So, the polar ends, they lie towards the outside, that is the hydrophilic side. Outside of the cell membrane is the all aqueous environment, okay. That is water loving, you can say, the hydrophilic, and the hydrophobic end will be inside of the facing inside the cell membrane, that is water haters, you can say, okay. So the polar end will always lie towards the outside, and the hydrophobic tail part, okay, they will be lying towards the inner part of the cell membrane. I will be sharing with you all the actual structure, the picture of the cell membrane, so that we can study in detail, okay. Now, the lipid component of the membrane, earlier it was considered without the actual study, before electron microscope was invented. Till then it was consisted of only phosphoglycerides. It was thought that the cell membrane is consisting only of phosphoglycerides. Later on, then it was found that it also consists of proteins and lipid. Okay, proteins and carbohydrates are present. In case of human beings, there's a ratio of protein and lipid, okay, out of which the cell membrane is composed of. Actually, you see now, in humans, it is 52% of protein and 40% of lipids. Okay. Again, cell to cell wise, this ratio is different, but in case of human beings, the ratio of this protein and lipids is always the same. Okay, 52% of protein and 40% in lipids, underlying this. Okay, can be asked in any of the objectives. Okay. Moreover, one more important thing is the hydrophilic end will lie at the outer side of the cell membrane, whereas the hydrophobic in the inner side of the cell membrane. Okay, cell membrane itself acts as a protective barrier. It is selectively permeable. Moreover, it will allow the entry of the only required solute materials. Into that also, see students, this lipid bilayer. Okay, if you see carefully the structure of the cell membrane, you will get to know it is not only the phospholipids it consists of. Okay, it has in between intermittent cholesterol components also, protein also. What all requirements of the cell is needed by the internal part also for secretion, for synthesis. Those all components are present into it. The lining is definitely functioning as not only of like a barrier, but also to carry out the internal activities smoothly, to protect the internal components of the cell also smoothly. We'll be now sharing the image of a cell membrane and how then later on this cell membrane structure was again studied in detail in the fluid mosaic model. Okay, so this can be again asked in your board exams. Fine. So I'll share with you the picture of a cell membrane, and in that we'll study how these all components, they lie at variable places and their functions individually. Okay. So see student, this is actually the structure of the cell membrane. Now there are two layers of lipid. This is lipid bilayer. But if you can see clearly, there are intermittent other molecules also, other components also in it. Like even there is a presence of protein, then sugar. Cholesterol needs to be present at regular intervals in this phosphate lipid layer, because you see, if the phosphate molecules, if they lie closely to each other, okay, without the intermittent cholesterol particles or molecules, what will happen in extreme cold condition? These phosphate molecules will they will get arranged so compactly that there won't be any space for the tiny molecules which are required by the cell to come in. Okay, so at regular intervals, at proper distances, cholesterol molecules are also present in this lipid bilayer. Okay, apart from that, you see this, you can say that the cell membrane, basically you can divide into two major components, that it is composed of phospholipids, cholesterol, and even proteins. Okay, now to some extent certain carbohydrates, and then most important component is the phospholipids, cholesterol, and proteins. Okay, so to talk about first thing, the phospholipids, you can divide this phospholipids into two important parts. Okay, the head and the two tails. Head and two tails. Okay, now in that you will find the head is a phosphate molecule that is attracted to the water loving side, that is hydrophilic side. The other two tails, okay, they are made up of fatty acids. You know that oil and water will not mix, right? So they are water haters. So they are in the inner side of the cell. Okay, they are incompatible. Okay, in the outside. Then you can even add into that the cell membrane is exposed to water mixed with electrolytes, right, and other materials on the outside and the inside of the cell. When cellular membranes form, phospholipids assemble into two layers. Because of this hydrophilic and hydrophobic properties, okay, the phosphate head in each layer face the aqueous or watery environment on either side, and the tails hide away from the water between the layers of heads because they are hydrophobic. Okay, so it is called that this kind of assembly is even self-assembly. Hydrophilic end towards the outer side, that is the aqueous side, and hydrophobic ends toward the inner side of the cell membrane. The cell is also made up of proteins. Now there are two different types of proteins or classes of proteins. Okay, this is very important, students. On the basis of ease of extraction of these proteins, there are two classes of proteins from which the cell membrane is composed of. One is the integral protein and the other is the peripheral. Now peripheral protein, periphery is the word related to surrounding, the upper part. Peripheral proteins lie on the outside, okay, on the periphery of the cell membrane, whereas integral cell membrane proteins, okay, they are the long lasting cell membrane proteins and they always remain attached to, okay, with the cell membrane. Now you can even explain about this thing. What to add is, integral proteins are nestled into the phospholipid bilayer very nicely. They are embedded inside it, okay, and they stick out on the either end. Integral proteins are also helpful for transporting larger molecules like glucose across the cell membrane. They have region called again the polar and the non-polar region that correspond with the polarity of the phospholipid bilayer. Now polar and non-polar, like I said, you refer to the concentration of electrons on a molecule. Polar means the electrons are not evenly distributed. That means making one side of the molecule more positively or negatively charged, while the other non-polar means the electrons are evenly distributed. So the molecule is evenly charged across the surface. Like I said, you students, integral proteins are always associated, deeply embedded inside the membrane, whereas the peripheral proteins, the other class of protein, okay, it does not extend across the membrane. Okay, they can be attached to the ends of the integral proteins at the ends only, okay, or they may not also remain attached, okay, somewhere lying at the periphery, but their main function is to help the transport or communication. That's it. Okay, whereas integral proteins, they remain completely, what you can say, immersed inside this cell membrane, okay, and mostly responsible for the communication, for the transport of larger molecules like the glucose. So students, one more thing to add about the cell membrane structure. Later on, a very nice improved model of the structure of cell membrane was proposed by Sir Singer and Nicholson. Okay, this is the most widely accepted model, that is a fluid mosaic model of the plasma membrane. Now, fluid mosaic model of the cell membrane is how, scientists describe what the cell membrane actually looks like and functions like. Because it is found that it is a bunch of different molecules which are found to be floating, okay, inside the cytoplasm or the cell component, okay. So this is how the fluid mosaic model actually, enables how the lateral movement of proteins within the overall bilayer. Now, because of this ability to move within the membrane, it is measured as its fluidity or the fluid mosaic model. The fluid nature of the membrane is also, important from the point of view of the functions like cell growth, formation of intercellular junctions, secretion, endocytosis, and cell division. One of the most important function of this plasma membrane, students, is to transport the molecules across the cell. The membrane is, as I said, is selectively permeable to some molecules present on either side of it. Many molecules can move briefly across the membrane without any requirement of energy. Fine. And when there is no requirement of energy, then such kind of transport is called as passive transport. No, what you can say, expenditure of energy. Like neutral solutes may move across the membrane by the process of simple diffusion. Okay, that is simple diffusion means against the concentration gradient. What is it called as? From higher concentration to the lower. This is also called as, right, osmosis, from higher concentration to lower concentration. When any molecule moves without the expenditure of energy, then it is called as osmosis, right, through a semi-permeable membrane. That is important, right? So then when the polar molecules cannot pass through the non-polar bilipid layer, they require a carrier protein and expenditure of energy to move. A few ions or molecules are transported across this membrane, okay, against their concentration gradient. Maybe it is usually from lower energy level, lower concentration to higher. When a molecule has to go from a lower concentration gradient to a higher concentration gradient. So students, if you remember, in case of osmosis, diffusion, you have studied that whenever a molecule has to go from its lower concentration to the higher concentration gradient, then it has to spend some energy in the form of ATP. Okay, so here also the cell has to spend some energy in the form of ATP so as to move across, okay, and hence then that transport becomes active transport. Passive transport, no expenditure of energy, whereas active transport at the cost of some energy, and that energy is in the form of ATP, okay. So this is how, the process of osmosis also facilitates the inward outward movement of certain components, whereas at some places active transport is also needed. Students, if you can actually make it out what kind of picture this signifies, like whether it's an animal cell or plant cell, if I ask you, then immediately you can make it out that it is a picture of a plant cell. Just why? Because of the presence of cell wall here, right? Cell wall is absent in animal cell. This is what we have studied so far. Now we know what actually is the structure of cell membrane like, okay? What are its composition and structure and the inner content, rest all things and their functions we know. But when we also need to study about the cell wall, as in case of plant cell it is present, and also in certain algae and fungi. Okay, however the composition will be variable. Now what we have studied about so far, that student, that cell wall basically will definitely give rigidity to the cell, right? Apart from that, it will maintain the framework or the structure of the cell. Again, protect the inner components of the cell, or will protect the cellular material. This is what we have studied about it. And moreover, most important function of the cell wall is it protects the cell from other outside mechanical damage and infection also. These are the functions of the cell wall. Now, how does it carry out the other function? It also helps for cell to cell interaction. And most important, it provides a barrier for the undesirable macromolecules. Macro, the bigger molecules. For that, it will act as a barrier, okay? So bigger molecules cannot penetrate and infect the cell, cannot pass inside the cell. Now the composition of an algal cell can be like the cell wall is made up of cellulose, basic cellulose. Then some other components are also found, that is galactans, mannans and minerals. And minerals like calcium carbonate is also seen in them. While in other plant cell, basic ingredient, plant cell, when I say the basic composition, even if you forget the other names, always write cellulose at least. Then other components, the other kinds of cellulose are the hemicellulose. Even in certain plant cells, the cell wall also consists of pectins and proteins. Students, try to recall, where did you come across the word pectins? And in which kind of cell, in case of plant cell, where you will find the major composition of pectins in the cell wall composition. Try to recollect. Okay. Proteins also is present as a composition of certain cell walls. In case of, cell wall of a very young plant cell, the primary wall will also, is allowing some growth also. But when it gradually, matures, it diminishes that cell maturity, and then the secondary wall is formed on the inner side of the membrane. Okay. So not much information or much like detailed composition as in case of cell membrane we have studied. Cell wall not much difficult to understand or learn. Okay. So if at all asked in the exam, the basic composition of cell wall in case of algae can be asked. Okay. And in case of fungi also can be asked. So fungi, you are going to find out which is the most important component of the cell wall if it is in case of fungus. Algal, I said it is cellulose, galactans, mannans, okay, and the other minerals are also present in that is calcium carbonate. So this is how, not much information about the cell wall composition of plant cell we have to study. For your level, this much is given, okay, and not much detailed information needs to be studied about it, okay. So then now next we'll be studying about the other cellular components in case of eukaryotes. Student, this is another important cellular machinery or cellular component. In case of eukaryotic cell, it is a membranous structure called as endoplasmic reticulum, endo inside. Okay, so endoplasmic reticulum is nothing but a network of tubules, okay, or tiny tubes, you can see, as you all can see. So it lies very close to the nuclear envelope, and from there it starts continuing towards the cytoplasm. In fact, you can say that it actually, divides the intracellular space into two distinct compartments. That is luminal side, lumen, this lumen, okay, this space inside this tubular structure. This is a lumen, the passage, you can say. Okay, so they basically divide the intracellular, complete intracellular space into two distinct compartments. This is the lumen, okay, that is the inside endoplasmic reticulum, and the outside, that is the extraluminal part. Okay, that is the luminal part, and the extraluminal part is the outside part. Okay, that is which is lying inside the cytoplasm. So this is how endoplasmic reticulum looks like. Now, can you all see, student, there are certain dots like structures on this endoplasmic or this tubular structure. Now then we call this endoplasmic reticulum as rough endoplasmic reticulum. Whereas if you see this structures, even they are tubulars having, lamellae, what you can say, lumen inside them, but they don't have this dotted structure here. Without dot, but even this is continuation of the endoplasmic reticulum, right? So this is called a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Basically, you can divide endoplasmic reticulum into two types. One is the rough endoplasmic reticulum, RER, and the other is SER, that is the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Now, this comes into the category of endomembrane system because, its functions and is coordinated with the other cell organelles, like, endomembrane system. Into that category we can include endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, that is the Golgi apparatus, lysosomes, and even vacuoles. Okay, since the functions of the functions are coordinated, so they are included into endomembranous system. In case of when the electronic microscope, under that the image of endoplasmic reticulum was viewed, it revealed the presence of network. There was a huge network of, you can say, tubules, or this tubules is also called as reticulum. The two important, functions, you can say, of endoplasmic reticulum is the rough one. Basically, function is to produce proteins, okay, in the cells, and ribosomes are attached to their surface, and ribosomes, is the site for protein synthesis. Whereas in case of smooth endoplasmic reticulum, its main function is to produce lipids, and also it detoxifies or removes the toxins or poisons in the body, in the liver and kidney cells. Most important functions. As in case of human beings, you can state this important function of smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so you can even find this rough endoplasmic reticulum frequently observed in the cells actively involved in protein synthesis and even secretions. They are extensive and continuous with the outer membrane of the nucleus. They start, getting connected from the outer membrane of the nucleus, and then they move further in towards the cytoplasm. Now, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is the major site of synthesis of lipids. That is what we shared just now. In animal cells, lipids like steroidal hormones are synthesized in case of smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So, not much information, but yeah, the basic function, students, of the smooth and the rough endoplasmic reticulum you all need to understand. Okay, so mostly responsible for transportation of proteins and even other carbohydrates to another organelles, which include the lysosomes, Golgi apparatus, plasma membrane even. And most important, because of this folded structure, they provide the increased surface area for cellular reactions. Okay, so this is in all, you can sum up the function of endoplasmic reticulum. So students, today we have studied, about the important cell organelles present in the eukaryotic cells. We started with the study of the cell membrane, its structure, how it looks like, its composition, basically composed of lipid bilayer, then the fluid mosaic model, then what it represents, basically how you can divide the cell membrane into two major components, the phospholipid layer, cholesterol and proteins. Okay, so then in case of human beings, how is the distribution of cell membrane in terms of percentage wise? 52% is to 40%, that is protein is 52%, the composition of cell membrane, 52% of protein and 40% of lipids. Then we also discussed about the cell wall. Cell wall, definitely in case of plant cells, also in certain algal cells, then its composition and its basic function that we have studied. Again, the most important cell organelle, that is endomembranous organelle. You can we studied about the endoplasmic reticulum, then how there is a network of tubules, that is reticulate form, or the network of tubules, flat disc shaped tubules, and into that also there are gaps when there are folds of that structure. So that basically those folds, how they divide the cellular space into two regions. That also we studied, and the basic function of the endoplasmic reticulum, how you can divide it into two based on the presence or absence of ribosome on it, and then individual function of the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum that we have studied. So we'll be studying about, the other important cell organelles, that is the mitochondria, then lysosomes, then what else, centrioles, and in case of plant cell, that is the plastids and its subtypes in our next session. So students, when we are about to complete that, then we will be concluding this topic. But you have to keep in mind what all terms we have studied today. Just make it a point wise. Start writing the headings, subheadings, what all you have studied today as per the composition and function as well as the structure. So fine students, we'll meet soon. Okay.